So good morning. I didn't want to let Bank Holiday Monday slow us down on our journey to getting through back pain and changing our lives. I think I was just reflecting on this the last few days, and I got loads of really good feedback about um, the identity piece that we did last week. That I thought I'd just elaborate a little bit on it, um, and how identity it sort of shapes every decision that we make around our back pain. And one of the things a lot of people that I meet would say to me is that they feel stuck, and the feeling of being stuck for anybody is really, really stressful. It's really frustrating. It's really sad. There's a real sense of hopelessness and a real sense of loss of control of the situation. But oftentimes that's just a feeling, right? And feelings are emotions, and emotions are the fuel for what we actually do and how we actually approach things. And if our emotions are wired in a certain direction, what tends to happen is that all of our decisions are based upon those emotions. But they're just feelings, and they're things that can change. So the feeling of being stuck, again, it's just a feeling and it can pass. The thing is that we often have to become very aware that it's happening in order for us to pass. Now, I feel right that one of the quickest ways to limit your future is to actually just attach a set of very limiting beliefs to your situation. And then what happens is you build that identity around those beliefs because everything that you do is based upon that foundation. And a lot of the time, this is happening without you even realizing this, right? So, say at first you kind of have some back pain, and then over time, the language in your head starts to change about it. Um, rather than just having pain, you are talking about your bad back. You stop saying things like you're struggling right now, and you start saying I'm broken, or treating yourself like you're injured, and you stop saying this is hard, and you kind of say, oh, this is just like who I am now. This I just am a person with a bad back. And I want to be like really clear with you. Like as I always say, I'm not saying that your pain isn't real. Your pain is real. Your experience is real. The feelings are real. The emotions are real. The frustration, the fear, the exhaustion, and the worry that come with long term back pain are so real. But pain being real doesn't mean pain has to become your identity, right? And this can be a big shift for a lot of people because the identity around somebody with chronic back pain often becomes centered around protection, right? So you become super careful with everything. Careful bending, careful lifting, careful sitting, careful standing, careful exercising, very careful playing with your kids, and you let them know about your situation and they know about your situation, and careful making plans, careful living. And the really difficult thing is that protection kind of almost makes sense at first when you've been hurt, when you've had a flare up, or when movement has felt dangerous, your nervous system kind of learned to protect you. You dropped into that mold. And it was a logical thing at one point, and it probably served some purpose at one point. But over time, that protection really can become your prison because avoiding movement starts to feel safe. It's really dangerous things. Holding back starts to feel sensible, and fear starts to feel logical. Waiting for the perfect time starts to feel responsible. So you start putting things on hold. But what if the very thing that feels safe is the thing that's actually keeping you stuck? And that's something I'd love you to sit with today on this Bank Holiday Monday. Because long term back pain does not just affect your back, it can affect your confidence, your health, your relationships, your work, your mood, your energy, and the example that you set for people that you love. And I always think this is always something that's in my mind about how I'm dealing with situations and how my kids are seeing me deal with certain situations. And I've seen in clinic that somebody would come in and tell me that their parent had a bad back, they have a bad back, and then they would tell me their kid has a bad back. Or I would see somebody, a young person in the clinic, and what we would see is that they would have a bad back, but the parent has a bad back and grandparent have a bad back as well. People think these things are kind of hereditary, but they're actually not. A lot of the times what we're handing down is a set of beliefs, and that can be really scary for people, but you can be the person to interrupt that pattern for the people that you love as well. So I think when I say these things, like that back pain can affect all of those things, like I say it from a place of caring and not judgment, because like I know that you didn't want this. I know that you didn't want to get to this position. And I know you're not weak, and I know you're not lazy, because you've been trying hard to fix this, which is what brought you here. And I know many of you have tried so many things already. I get it. I really understand that. But I also know this, that your future cannot be built from the same place that you're living right now, from this identity that you've built right now. Your life cannot be led by protection. Your identity cannot be built around pain. Because when that identity is, I am someone with a bad back, every single movement feels like a threat. But when the identity becomes, I am someone learning to trust my body again, movement actually becomes a pathway. And when the identity becomes, I am adaptable, I am trainable, I am rebuilding, I am capable, then the whole direction begins to change. And it's a bit like a big juggernaut trying to turn around the corner. Sometimes we don't see that change initially, but when we make that decision, it's really starting to change direction. And that does not mean like pretending that pain isn't there. Like, please again, don't represent me as disingenuous about this. It means that we're refusing to let pain have the final say in our life. And at some point, that question has to change. Instead of asking, how do I avoid pain forever? And it's normal for humans to want to avoid pain. We have to start asking, how do I become the person who moves, trusts, builds, and lives again? Because that's where the change begins, and that's where the magic happens. And I know this sounds really simple, and I totally get it. Like, simple doesn't necessarily mean easy, right? But what I mean is that when you change that identity, things just feel different. Opportunities start to open up, and you actually start to see your world in a way that creates possibility and not that feeling of being stuck. So it takes repetition, it takes practice, it takes the right guidance. And I'm always priding myself on this for people. It takes listening, learning, moving, reflecting, and challenging old patterns again and again, because old patterns can be very hardwired. We get pulled back in. We might take two steps forward and then we get pulled back into the old cycle again, the old belief system. And that's why, in order to change your future, you have to change your identity, because a lot of people, they make small little adjustments, they do little things, they feel a tiny bit better, but the real core identity doesn't change, and that's why they remain stuck. So this is why I created the Better Back Reset. This is why I've put it together, um, to break and to reshape that identity that you have about yourself. All of the things that people with back pain believe about themselves are often not true, and they're not the limitations that people think they are. And I include the scans in that. I include your diagnoses in that, and I include your beliefs about movement, and all of the rules that you've built up around that. We've got to remember, right, that you're capable. You are not broken. Your body is not failing you. Your body is adaptable, right? And you don't need to be fixed to start this. You just need to shift and change that identity of how you're seeing the situation. Because all that's going to happen in this situation, if we hold on to this identity of someone with a bad back, is that we will continue to move towards all of the restrictions that are being placed around us at the moment. When we shift our identity, what we will do is we will open up our world again, and we can make better decisions. We can move in a positive direction, and we can change our life. Have a super bank holiday Monday, and I'll talk to you during the week.